Want to know what the secret is to getting a good face for your thumbnails? Most YouTubers won't tell you this, but I'm going to reveal the secret right now. Hey, what's up everyone? Danny here. At the moment, pricing and availability for PC hardware is pretty shaky across the board due to the pandemic. No matter where you're looking, whether it be in stores or online, chances are you're going to run into some trouble putting together a PC. A couple of weeks ago, I announced that Micro Center and I were joining forces to give away a gaming computer to one lucky essential worker, and even though I'm directly working with a retailer like them, I was still facing the same issues with stock and pricing like most of you have probably experienced. The way these builds work is that I choose the parts directly from their stores based on what they have available at that point in time. So it's not like I have an endless supply of parts that are guaranteed to always be in stock. I have to approach the part selection just like any other customer would. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through what I was able to put together, and then we're going to choose one lucky winner to receive the build. So let's check it out. So let's go over all the parts. Keep in mind that for some of these, I had to go back and forth with my contact over at Micro Center because what I requested was going out of stock within less than 24 hours and before they can even pull it from the shelves. But as always, you just gotta be a little flexible and adapt with the situation. Let's start off with the processor. We've got the Ryzen 5 3600, and yes, this is gonna be another build with a Team Red processor. The Ryzen 1600 and 2600 would have also worked for this build, but those were out of stock because of how popular and cheap they are. So you could kind of say that I was cornered into using the 3600, but that's not the worst thing in the world since it comes in at $160 and it's still a very solid option for gaming, editing, streaming, you name it, given the price. Ryzen 5 CPUs, pretty much since their launch over 3 years ago, have been the go-to bang for buck processors, not only from a performance point of view, but also with the awesome chipset support that AMD has provided for the AM4 socket. And yes, before anyone brings it up in the comments, because I know they will, the Ryzen 3 3100 and 3300X are going to offer tremendous value and give the Ryzen 5 a run for its money. But they haven't been released as of me making this video, and I can't just time travel to the future to get them. And also, I think the 3600 will still have its place in the market even after those launch, especially if we see even further price reductions, so don't just go overlooking the Ryzen 5 chips just yet. The motherboard I went with is the MSI B450 Tomahawk, coming in at $115. This is a bit pricier than the cheapest B450s out there. Entry-level ones start at around $80 to $90, but the VRMs on this board are noticeably higher quality and will set this build up for solid overclocking and potential upgrades to bigger and better Ryzen 7 and 9 processors in the future. One thing to note is that this specific Tomahawk only supports up to Ryzen 2000 processors out of the box and requires a BIOS update. And I was able to do that on my end, but not everyone has older Ryzen chips on hand to do this upgrade, so if you can't, be sure to look out for the Tomahawk Max, which is the newer revision of this board for the same price, and that has Ryzen 3000 support out of the box as well as a bigger BIOS chip and memory speed support up to 4 GHz. For the CPU cooler, I decided to use the stock Wraith Stealth that comes in the box, and I was kind of on the fence about this since I did choose a nicer motherboard that was capable of overclocking relatively well, but the cooling options that were in stock just didn't win me over. Most of the coolers that passed the threshold to make it worth upgrading from the Stealth were in the $40 to $50 range, and man, it's pretty hard to pass up on a free cooler. I could still get a small overclock with this and throw the money saved towards the fattiest graphics card that I could fit into the build, so that's what I did. In this build, we're going with the Radeon RX 5700 XT Red Dragon from PowerColor. This was not my first choice in terms of the model. I was really gunning for the 3-fan Gigabyte Gaming OC, which is praised as one of the upper tier versions of this card, but that was out of stock. And my second choice was the Sapphire Pulse version, which was also out of stock. So that's how I landed on the PowerColor one. Now, don't get me wrong, the Red Dragon model is very solid, and it costs a little bit less than the Gigabyte and Sapphire ones, so it still works out in the end. This comes in at $400 and it takes up a whopping 1/3 of the entire build budget. It'll have the biggest effect on the gaming performance though, so that's why I wanted to put more into the graphics card over anything else. For memory, we have 16 GB of Crucial Ballistics at 3600 MHz CL16. I would have been okay with 3200 MHz memory. It's typically what I use and it's pretty cheap at $70 for 16 gigs. And at those speeds, you're not really missing much on the performance when it comes to gaming compared to the higher speeds, but there were no lower speeds in stock. People bought that all up, so it kind of shows where the demand is right now. Thus, 3600 MHz is what we use for this build. The additional speed comes at an additional $20 premium, but hey, we needed RAM and the show must go on. For storage, I went with the 512GB NVMe Inland Premium 2280. This is a great drive that I've used in multiple builds because it's priced well, it has good read and write speeds, and DRAM cache. Paired with this is going to be a 4TB 7200 RPM Toshiba mechanical drive for mass storage. This was on the pricier side, coming in at $100, but it was in stock. You can typically get a better gigabyte per dollar ratio going with a 3TB drive. Those are usually around $65 or so you can save a bit of money if you can drop a terabyte and if you can find them in stock. For the power supply, I chose the Seasonic Focus GM650, which is the revised version of their popular Focus bus line. This is semi-modular with all black cables, it's 80 plus gold rated, it comes with a 7-year warranty, and costs a little bit over $100. Since this particular build is going to someone else, I was okay with this more expensive Seasonic unit since I trust that it'll be solid and last a long time. It's one thing for me to use a cheaper unit for myself since I can troubleshoot problems pretty easily, but it's another thing when it's a PC that's being shipped off across the country or even to the other side of the world to someone who may not be as computer savvy and may not be able to troubleshoot it. So yeah, I'm perfectly okay with using $100+ power supply for this. The case that everything is going into is the NZXT H510. I think this case offers a lot in the sub $100 category. It comes in at $70 and it checks off almost all the boxes for me when it comes to a good case. I think it looks good, it's easy to build in, and it has some great design features that sets it apart from other cases. The tempered glass panel, for example, has a really convenient design for attachment. It's got a single thumb screw and a lip that catches the glass at the bottom edge and push pins at the top that pops into place. After using this, I never want to go back to a case that has 4 thumb screw holes drilled out into the glass again. Those are just a pain. The H510 has 2 included fans in the back and top for exhausting warm system air. There's a power supply basement. The cable routing is well thought out and there's plenty of space and cable raceways behind the motherboard tray. And there's the iconic cable management bar that gives it the signature NZXT look. The biggest issue with this case is of course the airflow, since the front panel isn't meshed and the only place for air to enter is through a small opening at the bottom front of the case. During the benchmarks, which I did run with minor overclocks on both the CPU and GPU, you'll see that they do run on the warmer side, but the temps were nowhere near problematic and the system didn't throttle at all. So while airflow is definitely limited, it's not as bad as some people would make it out to be. For additional cooling, I added 2 120mm Arctic fans to the front just to pull in whatever air that we could. If you haven't noticed yet, the theme for this build is simple and black, which has kind of been the theme for the last several PCs that I've showcased. I didn't want to use RGB because it costs more and it gives no performance gains, and on top of that it comes with all the extra cables for the lighting on each of the fans, and then you have the problem with RGB software on motherboards not always playing well, so sometimes you're super limited to the controlling of the RGB lighting, if at all. So I said forget all that, we're gonna go with simple and clean. So let's take a look at the part summary and price breakdown. The total comes out to a little over $1,100, which is a bit on the higher side, but again, this is due to the combination of limited inventory and price fluctuations caused by the pandemic. Now, if you're working with a smaller budget and you aren't on as tight of a schedule to complete your build, you can reduce the price by choosing some different parts and you won't see that much of a performance difference. Things like the motherboard, RAM, hard drive, power supply, and case. These are areas you can shave a bit off the price if you choose something else, and I'll show on screen some examples of what you can substitute in to get the total cost under $1,000. Remember, always be flexible and have backup options. Here's a little snippet of the build sequence. I'll release a longer video of the build process in a separate video, but it went very smoothly. I have zero complaints with the H510 regarding the build space. I just wish they had a meshed front version, as I'm sure those would be a huge hit if they were ever released. But here you have it, the final build. Alright, now let's check out the performance. For overclocking, I've got the Ryzen 5 3600 at 4 GHz on all cores, the Ballistics RAM is running at 3600 MHz, and the 5700 XT is running at 2150 MHz on the core and 1900 MHz on the memory. All games were tested in both 1080 and 1440p, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the benchmarks. So that wraps up for the benchmarks. I think this build is very solid. It would make for an awesome computer for a lot of people, whether it be for their first one or if it's to upgrade an older one that they already have. And with that said, now it's time to pick a winner. I want to first say thank you to all the essential workers who submitted an entry. I really enjoyed watching every single one of your videos. Running the giveaway like this made it so much more personal. I got to learn the names and faces of the viewers on the other side of the screen, and there were a lot of good entries, which made the decision process super tough. We had essential workers from all over the world and in all different sorts of industries. We had some that were in construction and were on site as they were recording, active duty military service members, a police deputy sheriff. There were retail workers like this person who worked at Target and wanted to win the computer to get into streaming magic tricks. And look at this, he did a magic trick as part of his entry. It doesn't get much more creative than that. I think asking people who are willing to record and put themselves out there will naturally draw in good entries, so I'm glad I ran it like this. Choosing a single winner actually proved to be way too difficult. There were multiple entries that were very top tier and they were all neck and neck with each other, basically all deserving. So what I ended up doing was, after narrowing it down from all the entries to the top picks, I drew a random name from that. So in the end it was a little bit randomized from a pool of less than 10. But yeah, without further ado, here is the winner of the build.
Hi Danny, my name is Calvin and I'm an essential worker for McDonald's. I know it's not that essential, but I have that right there to show it, the paycheck stub. But I just wanted to say, sorry for the background, I'm kind of living on the floor right now. I'm just really grateful that you're giving away the PC. And yeah, I hope I win, but you know, if it goes to someone else, I'm also happy for them. I just wanted to say I've been saving up for a long time for a PC, and what ended up happening is my mom ended up getting laid off, and so now I'm like kind of trying to help pay the bills right now. So you know, that went all away with all my savings for a PC. But I really hope I win, and thank you for the opportunity.
Congrats, Calvin. You are the winner of the PC. And don't sell yourself short. The food services industry, especially like fast food, takeout, and delivery, it's vital in a time like this where people are staying home and self-quarantining. So keep it up, and I really do hope you enjoy the PC. And on that note, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. I want to give a huge thanks to Micro Center for teaming up with me on this, specifically Andrew and Meg over at Micro Center, who I've been working with over the months, and they're always super accommodating to all my requests. I want to thank all the essential workers, both the ones that did submit entries and the ones that did not, out there, for being in the front lines and keeping everything functioning for the rest of us. And of course, I want to thank you all, the viewers, as always, for watching and supporting the channel. Let me know down in the comments your thoughts on the build, and if you're looking to build a computer right now, how has your experience been with the current inventory and pricing issues? Other than that, stay safe out there, and I will see you down in the comments as well as in the next video. Bye.